I call the Honourable Peseta Sam Lotu-Iiga.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rise and speak to this budget debate. And sir, may I first congratulate the Minister of Finance for another outstanding budget, his 7th budget in a row, and one that actually speaks to most New Zealanders. Sir, it's a country that is on track economically. We are a country that is on track fiscally for surplus next year, and we are a country that is on track to deliver help where it is needed most, sir. And I would just like to state up front, in terms of delivery, we have delivered in this budget $790 million to help children in our poorest households. Help children in our poorest households. And Mr Hipkins might ask why we're not delivering, but I don't hear Ms Ardern complaining about this budget in terms of $790 million spent on the poorest households. And what does it look like? Well, sir, it looks like 160,000 of our lowest income families, and some of those families are in my electorate of Maungakeke. I know they're in Mr Nuttall's electorate of Te Atatū. We're helping those families that really need some assistance around their benefit, $25 a week. Whether they're low-paid families, they get up to $12.50 a week in most cases on working for families, for those with incomes under $36,000. And sir, it's also about providing more childcare support. More childcare support. It's an extra $1 per week per child. So for different children, that's $50 per week. And so I challenge members opposite who complain about this to show me a family that would not take $1,300 in 1 year, that would not take $1,300 in 1 year. Show me one family that would not take that money. And I don't believe you can come up with that sort of family. I know Ms King brings families to this house, little examples of people that are not doing well, but you bring one family, Ms King, to this house who would not take the $1,300. And how do we know that this budget is successful? How do we know? Well, we held a budget workshop, Mr Nuttall and I and Mr English, in Manukau, in the heart of so-called Labour country, last Friday morning. And the positive feedback that we received about this budget from Pacific community leaders, from academics, from workers, even from unionists, dare I say it, those people were saying to us, we believe in what you're doing, we believe in what the National Party are doing, we want to see more jobs, we want to see more opportunities, but we think we're doing well under the National Government. We're doing well under the National Government. And what does it look like? Well, sir, it looks like this in terms of Pacific communities. The current stats show that over 123,000 Pacific people are currently employed in New Zealand. And that is more than at any time in our history. Any time in our history. And I notice members opposite with heads down. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the facts around how Pacific communities are doing very well under the National Government. And that, sir, is up 17,500 from this time last year. 17,500. So we're doing well in our health statistics. Immunisation rates for Pacific in the mid-90s. In fact, they're doing better than most of the rest of the population. So we're doing well in terms of immunisation, we're doing well in terms of jobs, and in terms of education, sir, we now have NCA level 2 pass rates for Pacific people in the mid-70s. And what was it under Labour, can I ask? What was it under Labour? And the heads down again, it's okay. You're not proud of your record. They're not proud of their record. But I'll tell you what it is, sir. I'll tell you what it is. It is 51% under the Labour government. 51%. So while they rail over there, while they rail about the amount of spending that goes into education, they don't look at the outcomes. And the outcomes are quite clear. NCA level 2 rates up 25%. Graduation rates up 50%. ECE participation rates up 20%. So I hear members opposite groaning and whining and moaning, but the outcomes don't quite fit with the rhetoric and the misleading representations that are made opposite. Sir, in terms of housing, this government has put in place more measures to address the housing problem across this nation than any other government. Yes, we know about the Home Start package that subsidises our first home buyers. Yes, we know about the release of land that we're working alongside Auckland Council, working with special housing accord, having special housing areas, releasing large tracts of land. But in this budget, we also came up with a plan around releasing more Crown land for development, more Crown land for development. And Sir, that goes alongside the extra money that we're putting into rent top-ups as part of our housing reforms in order to have the income-related rents subsidised for those who are impoverished. Sir, we're about providing the community housing sector with the opportunity to actually get alongside government, provide some of the housing, and I'm proud of the announcement in the Tamaki area, the $200 million injection. And admittedly, it sort of started under the Labor government many, many years ago, but we are now implementing that plan to release more land, to work alongside communities. And Sir, at the launch of that plan, we heard from a local early childhood education teacher who was talking about how our community in Tamaki, our community was being released, was being empowered, was given the opportunity to work out their own self-determination and their own aspirations, their own goals. And that can only come under a national government. Because we believe that the answers to our social ills lie in our communities. That's why we support whānau ora, that's why we support Tamaki redevelopment, and that's why we support schemes that empower our communities and give them the ability to determine their own successes, Sir. Sir, it's, this budget is also about health. And Ms King is over there, she's a former health minister. You're a former health minister? But what you did under your reign, you doubled the spending, but the outcomes diminished. The outcomes actually got worse under your reign. And I like Ms King, but her record is poor. She can't stand on her record. I really admire you, but your record is poor. And what we've done in the health portfolio is we've increased spending, we've got immunisation rates up, we've got health outcomes really doing well. And I say to members opposite, look at our track record. Look at what we've done in health and education. Look what we've done in housing. But also I really admire what our government is doing in the transport sector. What we're doing in terms of help, we've funded the electrification of trains in Auckland. We've given some targets around the inner city loop and how we can achieve those targets and where we're going in terms of public transport. But what we've also done is we've said, you know, we've invested in highways that are actually promoting economic growth to our regions. And that's what's critical here, Sir, economic growth. So, Sir, we know that tourism numbers are up. We know that jobs are being created in the tourism sector. I know locally in Maungakiekia, when I make my business visits, we know that the IT sector is actually thriving. We also know that locally manufacturing, and Maungakiekia is the hub of light manufacturing in the country, where we've got companies like Compact sorting equipment. We've got companies like Coca-Cola who employ thousands upon thousands of locals. And we know that that economic growth is important for our people. And so this government has created over 170,000 jobs in the last 4 years. We're about to create another 150,000 jobs in the next 4 years. We're a government that is clearly on top of our game, that is creating jobs, that's providing for the needs of our less able and vulnerable kids, and that's what this is at the heart of this budget. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that we're helping people who really are at the poor end of the scale, and we're helping them lift up and improve their aspirations and their dreams by getting off welfare and into jobs. So this budget is another stellar budget by the Honourable Bill English. It's a budget which I am supportive of, and I commend it, Sir, to this House.